topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Texas. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show where we bring you the top experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. About a year ago, I learned how painful neuropathy can be. And we tried to find an expert in it from the Dallas-Fort Worth area, which we had incredible luck doing with Dr. Tim Uselton with Trinity Integrated Medical. We got so many texts about the show that we just made it a Texas show because we know that not every city has a doctor who can specialize in neuropathy. So for the next 25 minutes, we're going to be talking about, and I have learned how painful it is and what it does to your balance. So let me introduce you to our fine expert who's now with us twice a month, Dr. Tim Uselton. Good morning, Tim.
Hey, good morning, Steve-O. How are you today?
I'm good. Tim, I am so glad that we can offer people a treatment, a remedy, for something that's so painful that people have thought that they had to live with. And we found your practice in Carrollton, Texas. We are so glad to have you. Tim, tell people about your practice.
Awesome. Yeah. So we're located right here in Carrollton, Texas. It's a suburb of Dallas. But with our treatments for neuropathy, we've actually kind of been able to expand well beyond just the Dallas area and its surrounding cities. Because we're offering some at-home treatments now. But yeah, you're right. The pain and the numbness that are associated with peripheral neuropathy is something that for many, many, many years now, people have been told they just have to live with it, that there's nothing that can be done. And so they get on the medications like gabapentin or Neurontin, and they just are expected to live with this debilitating process happening in their body. And eventually they lose their balance, they lose their ability to drive, and then they start talking about amputation. So through my board certification, we really focused in on what can we do, what can be done. And now we know several different therapies that I'm excited to share today that are actually helping reverse the damage of the nerves and giving people their lives back, giving people their ability to walk and stand back to them and not down the path of using a cane, progress to a walker, progress to a wheelchair, and then start talking about losing toes. So I'm excited to share with you today, Steve-O.
Hey, Tim, you know what? I got to tell you something. You're a chiropractor, and I got to tell you where chiropractic care has come just in the last 10 or 15 years. I mean, we used to think of a chiropractor, oh, I'm going to get an adjustment or automobile accident. You guys have come so much further in what just here we are talking about neuropathy.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, chiropractic started in 1895 with one doctor who used his hands only. That's what chiropractic actually means. If you break down the word chiropractic in Latin, it means to do with the hands.
I didn't know that.
Only practic, to do. So this guy, he adjusted a man who didn't have hearing in his ear, and after the adjustment of his spine, he could hear. So that's where it started 130 years ago. And fast forward to today, and we're board certified in neuropathy. We're board certified in chronic pain. We're offering regenerative medicine to our clients, and we're working on knee joints, and we're working on shoulder joints, and of course hands and feet with neuropathy. So yeah, it's come a long way for us. I believe the chiropractor has that entrepreneurial spirit that just wants to do more and be on the edge of what's, the latest and greatest. And we, in our practice, that's one of our core values, is that we're innovative. If something's new out there and we can test it and we can see that it's gotten the backing of like PubMed.gov studies, the white paper studies they're called. If there's a product out there that's been tested enough to go through that process, it's not a drug, it's not a medication, it doesn't require millions of dollars of backing or lobbyists through big pharma. And we're against all that stuff because we see what that has resulted in. One of the most unhealthiest countries in the world that spends more than any other country by a mile. We're top of the charts on our spending, and we're near the bottom at our results. So we're kind of breaking that mold and getting into things that are more natural, things that aren't just a placebo or anything like that. We actually have the studies now backing it up, and I'm excited to share some stuff today when we get further into this that's very specific, that can help some people today.
Well, because of your great work, it is so amazing now that an MD will recommend a chiropractor, where 25 years ago that would never happen. But chiropractors have come so far. I mean, Tim, what made you decide to go into neuropathy?
It was honestly the results of that my patients were getting by going to their PCPs and going to the neurologists. They were all coming back on a drug called gabapentin. They were all being told there was nothing else that could be done. And so I wanted a deeper dive. I sought out a board certification course through the American College of Physical Medicine. And they teach in that course that the reason why the neuropathy symptoms appear are due to the lack of blood flow over time that decreases the body's delivery of oxygen and nutrients to the nerves. So if you cut off the oxygen and you cut off the nutrition to the nerves that the blood flow normally brings, supplies to them, then the end result of that is death to the nerve. And so the nerve starts to die, and they give you this pill that changes the effect of that getting to your brain. So you don't realize it, you don't notice it, because it numbs you to that. It does nothing though. Gabapentin does not have any mechanism of healing the nerve, of increasing blood flow that then returns the nutrients and the oxygen to that nerve to restore its normal function. So we now have sought out ways to return that blood flow. And if you back up before that, what causes the lack of blood flow? It's inflammation in the body. And that could be from trauma, from spikes in the blood sugar, like diabetic people, from osteoarthritis in the lower extremities. Now there's a neuropathy category that's connected to osteoarthritis putting pressure on the nerves. So all those things put that pressure in there, and that pressure is that inflammation, and that inflammation kills the blood supply. So we are now in the process of trying to restore that blood supply. So that's the biggest breakthrough over the last 5-6 years in my practice, is seeing people being able to not only get off of the gabapentin that was getting them nowhere. I mean, fast forward to the end, when you have an amputation, the majority of people having amputated toes are on gabapentin. So the gabapentin is not even designed to fix the problem. It's designed to help you cope with the problem until you get to the point of losing your toes. And so we want to get ahead of that. And so that's why we believe in the angiogenesis process, which is a big fancy word for increasing the blood flow and the blood supply to the area. And we do that through various methods, and we get really good results. About 80 to 90% of our people see some results within 2 or 3 months. And this process could be going on for years and years and years before we get to them. So it's quite remarkable.
So, Tim, somebody's sitting in their car right now, maybe they're having pain or numbness or even their balance. What should people look for to see if maybe they're a candidate? Maybe it's neuropathy they have, because some of the times neuropathy goes unnoticed.
That's right. So the best way to figure it out is with some good thorough testing, and we do some deep dive into neurological testing. We can even do what's called a punch biopsy, where we take a little teeny tiny tissue sample out of the foot or the ankle, and we send that off to a lab. And there's no guesswork at that point. There's no, I think you might have neuropathy. We don't know if it's polyneuropathy or diabetic neuropathy or idiopathic neuropathy. We don't care. We just send that sample away, and it comes back that says the nerves are damaged and the severity of that damage. They have morphological changes, is what the word is used on these lab reports that we get back. Your nerves are already having morphological changes. They're morphing into something they should not be. They're curling up. Instead of a nice stiff nerve, they get all wrinkled and curled up, and they no longer transmit back to the brain a feeling of cool or heat or vibration or a sense of proprioception, which is your balance. And so that it's like turning on the light switch and the light bulb flickers. And that light bulb flickering is, you don't know where there's a pinch or a short somewhere in that wiring, but we don't know exactly where. Well, when we send the nerve off, that tissue sample comes back and says, right here, this has X amount of damage. We put that together with a very thorough examination where we can determine if a person's 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, or whatever percentage of sensory loss that they're feeling. And that sensory loss can not only just mean numbness, but could also be sharp pains, stabbing pains, feeling of pins and needles constantly, feeling like people don't want to put their socks on or wear shoes, a certain type of shoe, because they're feeling this weirdness in their feet. And it eventually will lead to their lack of balance. And then they fall and break a hip. And then they go to the doctor and they say, oh, you have neuropathy. That's what caused this. And they go, oh, how long have I had that? Probably years. So yeah, wow. That's the gist of it all, is a good thorough evaluation to know if it really is that you're dealing with neuropathy, or could it be like a compression on the spine? You know, if you pinch a nerve, sometimes you can pinch it in the back due to osteoarthritis, and it'll give those same similar like symptoms that are shooting down the leg. And that's called radiculopathy or radiating disease. Radiculopathy. So radiculopathy is differentiated from neuropathy, which means the nerves are dying from the distal furthest part and working their way back up to the proximal part. So in the tips of the toes, going back up to the ankle. Or you pinch your back and it shoots from your back down into the foot. So we determine which is which because the treatments are very different.
Do you see a certain either a gender or age demographics when it comes to neuropathy?
Great question. It is most common in the elderly people, say over 55 to 60 years old, because, you know, when you've had more time to develop more inflammatory process into the system, then the nerve damage has been happening for longer. And the longer it happens, you know, it may have on a time scale, it may have happened here. And then now you're way down here and the symptoms are all just out of control. And so the older you are, the further down the line you can get before all those symptoms come to fruition, and you've had it much longer. Now it's done more damage. So it is more common in elderly. However, we do see it in younger people. We've diagnosed people as young as 40 that have peripheral neuropathy disease.
So the $1 million question now, Tim, is how do you treat it?
Great question. So we look at the body kind of in a three-pronged approach. We look at the structure of the body. We want to make sure that there's not some major rotation or misalignment or pinch mechanically onto a nerve that's causing it to show those symptoms like a radiculopathy. We rule that out. That's simple to do with an exam and an x-ray. We look at the discs and the degeneration, all that sort of thing. That's the structural component. The second component will be the neurological component. We look at the nerves themselves. We test the nerves. We say the right side is already at 50% sensory loss, and the left is at 62%. And the patient says, yeah, I confirm that because I felt it in my left foot way before my right. And now my left foot's really going numb every night, and this, that, and the other. And that's the kind of the second component, the neurological. The third, though, very, very important, is that metabolic component. Because if you have this process of inflammation that you have not yet taken care of, then you can go down here and try and shoot water on the fire all day long, but you've got something up here fueling the fire. And so if you don't connect with both, then you're just kind of spinning your wheels. One end is putting the fire out and the other end is adding fuel to it. So you're fighting kind of against your own body. So we look at the metabolic health, and that's done through nutrition, through proper gut health, through anti-inflammatory diets and supplementation. We even do IVs now in our clinic that are designed to decrease that inflammation. So we have programs that people can come into the office and get the full, Cadillac treatment plan. Or we have some things where people are coming from hours away and they can't drive over here 2 and 3 times a week and get this treatment. So they get the next best thing. That's some at-home therapies that we know produce angiogenesis, which again is brand new blood flow. That brand new blood flow to that area will actually start to deliver the nutrients in our body and the oxygen from those red blood cells into that area and start to slowly over time heal that nerve.
Why, Tim, do some of these treatments that other doctors are doing not taking care of the issue?
It's a great question. I think that, our training kind of determines where we are in practice, and PCPs, the primary care providers, they're not really trained to know the ins and outs. Now, some are very well read and they're up on the innovation of new things, and they read the articles that are published in pubmed.gov. If you're a listener and you say, I don't know about this, I'm a kind of a skeptic until I can read about it, go to pubmed.gov. PUB like published, med like medical reports, pubmed.gov. That's the kind of the gold standard for things that it's the National Library of Medicine, the National Center for Biotechnological Information. And you just type in how to create angiogenesis, and it'll show you white paper after white paper after white paper of all the things that are out there that we know increase blood flow. And in certain areas of medicine, they're very fully accepting of this, like in wound care. If a person has a wound that won't heal, they know that the research is there to prove that a certain amount of this type of treatment of, say, LED light or laser therapy, it will actually improve the blood flow to that area with angiogenesis and help heal that wound. So diabetic ulcers and those types of things that won't heal. The reason they won't heal is because of the blood flow. It's already showing on the skin level with a damaged tear or a sore that won't heal. But on the inside, the nerves are feeling it too. So now we've changed the way these lights penetrate, these LED light and lasers, and some penetrate deeper beyond just the skin to heal more than just a wound, but on the inside, actually healing that nerve and bringing blood flow to that superficial nerve. And so there's that therapy. There's some nerve rebuilding type at-home therapies that we can do that actually, if you saw the sine wave, and without getting too scientific on you, if you saw the sine wave of a normal nerve, now we're going to geek out for just one moment here. The sine wave is a smooth up and down curve. Well, a numbness, when you have a numbness and you put that same machine to the body to test that nerve, then as it goes up and comes down, there'll be a dip, a shallow dip. And if there's pain in the patient's presentation, then it'll be a peak. So you got, instead of a smooth up and down, you got this going up and then a dip, or then a peak and then a dip, and then it goes back down. And you look at this and it looks like someone with a squiggly handwriting drew this sign instead of a smooth curve. Well, this machine that we know of called the nerve rebuilder, it actually makes those dips more shallow and it makes those peaks slightly flattened. And over time, it you're stuck in this feedback loop of numbness or pain that you can't get out of. It's kind of like phantom pain. Everyone's probably heard that, maybe a soldier that lost their leg from the knee down, but now the foot still hurts. Well, in their brain, they're stuck in this pattern of this peak on this sine wave. And this rebuilder machine can be put on the body and it changes the neurology so that the peaks and the dips are no longer as high and sharp, and it flattens them over time. And that flattened smooths out the nerve, and all of a sudden that phantom pain goes away. The same is true with neuropathy pain. It's a peak, or it's a shallow little dip, and we can flatten those out so that it's more smooth of a line. And over time, it actually reverses that feedback loop that you're stuck in, just like phantom pain.
Tim, I'm so impressed by the success you're having. Now, what is the success rate like for your home program? Because there's a lot of people who live out of, really, really far from the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
Sure. So I would preface that with saying that if you're not doing something actively, then you are degenerating. Neuropathy is a degenerative condition by nature. So people say, "Oh, I don't want to try this and try that." And if it were my feet falling asleep, I would try everything, because I see the end results of the amputations and the people in wheelchairs and the people that lose their viability. Like, there's an elderly woman at my church that just 2 or 3 years ago, I was going to a small group every week and I was seeing her. Now I haven't seen her in a couple of years. I ran into her husband on Sunday at church, and he said, "Yeah, her neuropathy's so bad she doesn't leave the house. She doesn't get out." And so that's the path we're on. And so that being said, the at-home therapy, it has about a 70 to 75% success rate. And that success rate is measured in various, I can't say, "Oh, you're going to get 90% better," or "You're going to get 30% better," because everyone's damage is different. Some people have been damaged for 25, 30 years. Their success may be only 30%, but guess what? 30% is better than zero. And now they can stand, or they can walk for up to half a mile without being completely fatigued and exhausted. And they're no longer using a walker. To that person, they've got a part of their life back. So, and then we have 90% success rate on some of the in-office programs where we're using regenerative medicine to restore the nerve. We're using the LED lights at home. We're using the rebuilder machine at home. We're doing combined electrochemical therapy, injecting B vitamins directly into the nerves in the office. I mean, we're working with a physical trainer who's working on balance and posture and decompression of the spine. And all these things start to, we throw the kitchen sink at it, and everything that's angiogenic, everything that reduces the severity of the peaks and valleys, all those things we throw at a person, and those are the people that get the best results. It does take time. And we look at nutrition, of course, like I already mentioned, supplementation, changes in diets, all those things. And that's the person really, I don't shy away from saying a person that's dealing with neuropathy has some significant lifestyle changes to make. And that would be changing their diet, getting on the proper supplementation, sometimes changing their medication. The side effects of these statin drugs and these anti-seizure drugs and these drugs that suppress the neurology to the brain, they're actually causing some of the side effects of those drugs are causing the neuropathy. So it's about changing the inflammation, getting the blood flow back into there. And again, 70 to maybe 90% of our people do really, really well on the program.
Tim, I love your passion for neuropathy and for healing. Tell people how they can reach your office.
Okay, great. So there's a number on the bottom of the screen. If you're not watching and you're just listening to this podcast, this presentation, it is 972-478-5538. Also, there's a specific page put together on one of our websites. It's actually howtoavoidsurgery.com/neuropathy info page. That's in the chat if you're online. Maybe, I don't know if everyone can see that chat or not, but it's howtoavoidsurgery.com/neuropathy info page. That'll get you in the right direction. But yeah, reaching out to us is the easiest way. We have a team of 10 employees here, from providers to case managers to nurse assistants, of course, a chiropractor on our staff. I myself am a chiropractor, but I don't do the hands-on work any longer. I'm just out there doing the promotion and showing people what can be done, and trying to stay on the edge of innovation. And something new comes out, I research it, I study it, I look at the white papers on it. So I'm the one in the office that's kind of implementing that mission that we have to help as many people as possible who've been told there is no help for them.
Tim, you're amazing. Your practice is amazing. Have a wonderful and blessed Christmas and a happy New Year. And Tim will be back with us next month for more Ask the Experts. Thanks, Tim.
Thank you, Steve.
That's Tim Uselton, Neuropathy Treatment, Trinity Integrated Medical. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.